So let me ask you a question. What if you could beat a multi-million-dollar corporation in a legal fight, not with money, but by playing a perfect game of chess? Well, that's exactly what we're looking at today. We're diving into a story out of Idaho that pulls back the curtain on a corporate playbook for taking homes and the one homeowner whose brilliant strategy brought the entire machine to a screeching halt.
But here's the thing. This story doesn't kick off with a foreclosure notice, which is where you'd expect it to. Nope. It starts with a very, very strange offer. An offer made after the fight was supposedly already over.
$5,000. That's how much a corporation offered a tenant to leave a house that they had already won in court. Just think about that for a second. They had the judgment, they held all the legal cards, but they were still ready to write a big check. And the big question is, why? I mean, that offer makes absolutely no financial sense, unless their real goal was something much bigger than just winning a court case. And unpacking that strange payment, well, that's the key to understanding their entire operation.
To really get that $5,000 offer, you first have to understand the opponent. See, this wasn't just one company that homeowner Jeremy Bass was fighting. It was a complex, sophisticated, and frankly, well-oiled system.
People who've investigated this call it the foreclosure machine. And it's not a single entity. It's more like a network. Servicers, trustees, law firms, shell companies, you name it. On the surface, each little step they take looks perfectly legal. But when you zoom out, you see the whole process is engineered to do one thing: manipulate legal procedures to transfer wealth. And they run this devastatingly effective playbook. First, they create document chaos, just burying the homeowner in confusing paperwork. Then, they rush an accelerated auction before a real defense can even be mounted. After that, they push like crazy for immediate possession to make any legal appeal feel totally hopeless. And then comes the final, most important step: eliminate all anchors, get rid of anyone and anything still legally tied to that property.
Now that whole playbook drives toward one ultimate goal, a legal concept called manufactured mootness. It's a really clever and pretty cynical trick. See, if they can get everybody out of the house and declare it empty, they can then go to an appeals court and say, hey, look, this fight is over, the case is moot, nothing to see here. They literally use the court's own rules to prevent a judge from ever actually looking at the merits of the case. But this machine made one fatal miscalculation. They just assumed Jeremy Bass was another typical overwhelmed homeowner. What they got instead was a self-taught legal strategist who had studied their playbook backwards and forwards and was ready to play some three-dimensional chess.
So you can imagine this phone call. The corporation's attorney ends it with this classic intimidation line. It's the kind of threat that's supposed to make a homeowner just fold.
But Bass's reply? Just pure, upbeat enthusiasm. That one little sentence was a warning shot that the attorney totally missed. It was the signal that Bass wasn't just ready for a fight, he was actually prepared to win it.
And this is where it gets brilliant. Bass's first countermove was a thing of beauty. The day before the auction, he signed a 2-year lease with his tenant. Now, this wasn't just any old lease. It was designed to transfer with the property. And here's the genius part, only Bass personally could end it early without a penalty. He had just saddled the new owners with what he called a financial hemorrhage they couldn't stop.
Then he added a second layer of defense, a custodial shield. This was a separate agreement that legally made his tenant the official custodian of all his personal stuff still in the house. So even after Bass was gone, his property was still there, protected. The new owners were now legally blocked from touching any of it, creating a liability tripwire they absolutely could not afford to cross.
So with those two moves, Bass transformed his tenant, a guy named Dwayne Pike, into the absolute linchpin of his entire strategy. Pike wasn't just a renter anymore. He was the last legal anchor to the property, the one witness the machine just could not get rid of.
And this brings us right back to that mysterious offer. Just look at this timeline of their growing panic. Back in September, before they even had a court judgment, they offered Pike a measly $700 to leave. But by March, after they had legally won possession, the offer shot up to $5,000. Think about that. Their desperation grew even as their legal position got stronger. That's backwards. That $5,000 offer wasn't just generous. It was totally irrational from any business perspective. The absolute most they could ever hope to make from the rest of the lease was $4,000. So they were literally offering to pay $1,000 more than the property was even worth to them. That's not a business decision. That's an act of pure desperation. So clearly, this was never about making a profit.
It was about something way more valuable to them: speed and, more importantly, silence. They needed that last witness out of there, and they needed him out now, so they could finalize their takeover, wash the title, and shut the whole thing down before Bass's appeal could blow the lid off their entire operation. And as Bass kept digging, he started to find evidence that suggested his case wasn't just a one-time thing. It looked like it was part of a much larger and deeply disturbing pattern of behavior.
What he found was a staggering conflict of interest. Check this out. The very same law firm, HWM, that was aggressively representing the buyers in his Idaho case, was also acting as the supposedly neutral auction trustee down in Utah, where these exact same buyers just so happened to be winning auction after auction.
I mean, how unlikely is that? Well, someone did the math. The statistical probability of the same group of people legitimately winning 12 consecutive auctions is 1 in 244 million. Let that sink in for a second. That's not just suspicious, it's a virtual impossibility. It strongly suggests the auctions were rigged.
So what's the result of all this? Well, the machine has been brought to a grinding halt. Jeremy Boss's strategy has trapped these corporate entities in a legal nightmare that they can't seem to wake up from.
One legal analyst who reviewed the case put it perfectly. They thought they were buying a house. Instead, they bought a legal nightmare that they can't wake up from. I mean, just imagine it. They had the title to a house they can't actually control, with financial obligations they can't get out of.
And you have to understand, this case exposes tactics that threaten every single homeowner. It's a playbook for systematically dodging judicial review, creating these procedural black holes where a homeowner's rights just vanish, and using cash buyouts to silence key witnesses before they can ever tell their story.
It all leaves us with a really deep and unsettling question. This case was never just about one house in Idaho. It's a stark warning. It makes you wonder if the very rules designed to protect us and ensure justice can be twisted and used as a weapon by those who know how to play the game.